Welcome to ITU Telecom World 2016 in Bangkok, Thailand. I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio today by Abdul Rahim Adebayo Shitu, who is the Honourable Minister for the Federal Ministry of Communications for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed for being with us in the studio today, Mr.
It's my pleasure being here with you.
I'd like to start off by asking you a little bit about digital vision and your digital vision for for Nigeria, for digital Nigeria, and what are your broadband objectives?
Well, recall that Nigeria is just coming onto the stage of digitization. 16 years ago, for instance, in the area of telecoms, all the lines Nigeria had for a population of about 120 million at that time were just less than 500,000, lines. And Nigerians had to struggle, and go through a lot of expenses and so on, to be able to make simple calls. We thank God that because of the initiative of our leaders, today Nigeria, from less than 500,000, we have more than 152 million lines. I mean, that is to show the exponential growth that we have had over the last 16 years. So for us, the major challenge is to ensure we have continuing access, that Nigerians, wherever they may be, whether in the villages or the towns, the city centers, across rivers and all of that, are able to have access, to digitization, not only in the area of telephone, but also in the area of data and in the area of Wi-Fi connectivity. We also not only want these to be universal across the country, but also to be affordable. When we had less than 500,000, for a line, you had to pay hundreds of thousands to get a line. It was not always available. But today, things have costs have come down considerably, and we are also looking to ensuring that the costs go down further in terms of the costing, actually, and in terms of the quality of service. Again, we are trying to build capacity, to leverage on in terms of skills and literacy. We want every Nigerian, particularly those who have the opportunity of being in educational institutions, to have opportunities to learn about digitization, to learn about ICT, to use ICT to develop themselves, to use ICT to make their businesses easier and more cost-effective, and for government itself to use ICT to make governance more transparent, more convenient, more accessible, to all Nigerians. So these are the type of visions we are looking at, and I can assure you that government is working very hard towards realizing all of these goals.
What are the major challenges that you're facing at the moment in terms of deployment of broadband in Nigeria?
Well, easily the number one challenge is the fact of lack of adequate investment. Locally, people are either not yet familiar with the opportunities, that is also have money, not yet familiar with the opportunities within the system, or where they are, they may not even have the capacity to contribute. So we are inviting the outside world, the international community, investors to be sure that Nigeria is one market where their investments will yield dividends within the shortest possible time. You are talking of a population of 182 million. That's certainly a very huge market. You are also talking of one country where a quarter of every black man is a Nigerian across the world. Again, in the West African subcontinent, Nigerian population is more than that of the 14 other countries in West Africa combined. And that will tell you that, investing in Nigeria is like investing in the whole of the West African sub-region, because all parts of West Africa look forward to Nigeria to provide leadership and to provide goods and services. Again, for now, there's still poor legal regulatory authority. We are working very hard on that, particularly with the coming on board of the new leadership in what is called NCC, National Communications Commission, which is the regulatory authority. Again, for now, we still have inadequate infrastructure. Again, for the same reason of lack of adequate funding, there are problems, and so opportunities arise for people who want to invest in Wi-Fi connectivity, in broadband connectivity to come in either by, having fiber optics connectivity through the ground or through even, electricity, lines. And lastly is the poor human capacity. We have not had enough training institutions for the workforce of ICT. If you have such an exponential market in ICT, you also expect to have a pool of skilled manpower, to manage and handle, the industry. For now, that is, there's a lot of deficiency in that regard, for which we have evolved a policy of establishing an ICT university, which will be the first of its type in Africa, which will be dedicated for skilled training in all aspects of, the industry. I can tell you, unfortunately, that as of today, there's hardly any university where telecommunications engineering is being taught. So one of the jobs or the assignments that this ICT university will be doing is to ensure that there are training opportunities in every aspect of ICT industry. So these are some of the challenges, but I can assure you that government is not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that we provide enough, spaces in our universities and in new institutions, where people can be trained, so that we have enough pool of skilled manpower to handle the management of the industry within Nigeria and even to export such skilled manpower across, the West African and African region generally.
And what are the policies or regulatory measures that government will implement to remove these barriers and promote broadband development?
Well, the first thing we are doing is to ensure that a level playing field is provided, for all operators, particularly through legislation. For instance, in the sale of spectrum and in the sale of licenses, these are always advertised and competitively bidded for. So it is only on merit that one can get licensing, to operate, and that one can get spectrum. So no underhand dealings are allowed in this regard. This certainly makes investment, open, transparent, and everybody is happy because you know that if you merit it, you will get it. And this really encourages a lot of investment, and it provides an enabling environment for players, to operate in. The second, the second thing we are doing is to ensure that incentives are provided to encourage operators to come. One of the means we are adopting is to ensure that, pioneer status may be granted to those who deserve it, such that they may have tax holidays over a period of time, so that a part of, tax holidays, again, the ease of doing business is also provided. Again, we also make sure that it is easy for people to repatriate their profits and investments, over time, particularly in regard to their capital and profits. These are some of the things we are doing in that regard. Again, we are, ensuring that there's an improvement in the development of policies and in the development of legal framework, such that, for those who want to invest in operation, for those who want to invest in providing, infrastructure and all of that, they are encouraged without discrimination. Whether one is a foreign company or one is a local company, you have, the fairly equitable opportunities, within which to operate. Finally, again, we are also encouraging PPP, process, so that if private companies come, they could collaborate with government, in, doing some of these things. May I add, finally, that we are also trying to ensure a few things, 5 key issues. One of the things is we are trying to build an ICT growth by improving infrastructure and quality of service across board. Whether, both the private sector and government is keen into this, because we discover that this is a joint thing. The government cannot on its own, because of paucity of funds, solely handle this. So we engage in PPP with the private sector, whether local or foreign. Secondly, we're doing our best to deliver ICT and broadband penetration. Again, we have a fund called Universal Service Provision Fund, which is, also doing exactly what the private sector is doing, particularly for the purpose of areas which may not be profitable to invest in, by the private sector. The USPF fund is utilized in this. Again, through this, of course, government is able to raise revenue and reduce waste. The fourth policy thrust of the government in supporting the growth of the ICT industry is what we call policy of innovation, innovative continuity for continuous innovation. We must ensure that innovations are encouraged and competitions are also encouraged so that we can get the best. Finally, we are working towards ensuring a migration of Nigeria to an ICT nativity, if you like, so that, ICT training will be ubiquitous in schools, will be ubiquitous in communities and all of that. And for this, we're encouraging the establishment of, innovative hubs, and so on across schools and across various communities in Nigeria.
Now, we've seen a lot of Nigeria here, Nigerian projects. One was one of the winners of the GemTech Awards last night, which was fantastic. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Gender equality in mainstreaming technology there.
Thank you so
much. You've got an amazing pavilion here as well. What's the value of attending events for you, such as ITU Telecom World?
The value?
The value, yes. Why do you think this is important?
Well, it is important because, number one, you see, time was when Nigeria relied solely on petroleum as our major and sole revenue earner. Nigeria was earning almost 90-something% of its income through petroleum. But you know very well that, resources from petroleum are dwindling by the day. Because of the fact that we had petroleum for more than 60 years, we had gone to sleep. But now we are awakening to the fact that petroleum requires extraction. It requires a lot of effort for you to, gain revenue from. ICT does not require any resource, to be extracted. It requires just your brain. And so we are, awakening to the fact that there are a lot of countries. We are in Bangkok now. Bangkok in Thailand. Thailand does not have petroleum. And yet you can see very well that it is more developed than Nigeria. Despite the fact that Nigeria have had more resources, natural resources, than it. If you go to Singapore, you go to South Korea, you go to even China. These are countries which depended on ICT to develop. So if they can do it, then Nigeria, with its boisterous, citizenry, must be able to do even much better. So it has become compelling for Nigeria to invest more in ICT so that we can fill in the gaps of deficiencies, in our revenue, and as well as use ICT to enable our lives to be better, to enable our businesses to be more convenient, and to enable governance to be more transparent and more service-oriented to the generality of the people. So for us, we don't have a choice, and I am happy that the federal government of Nigeria, headed by our President Muhammadu Buhari, has keyed into the ICT revolution, and we are leaving no stone unturned to ensure that we gain the utmost from it.
Well, that's fabulous, and thank you very much for these wonderful insights into your country and into your policies. And we wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.